It looks like we are rolling and folks are coming into the room. Thanks for attending, everybody. Good to see everyone again. It's been a little while. And we've got Shobit and Justin back with us again today. So I'm going to make a prediction and think we're probably talking about AI today. Just throwing something out there.
Absolutely.
Outstanding. Got a couple of the experts here. First, I wanted to make a couple of real quick announcements. Explore is coming up. We are back in Las Vegas this year for between August 25th and 28th. We'll be moving in the direction of staying in Las Vegas. I know some of you who go way back to the early days of Explore, well, early days of Explore by name, know that we were in San Francisco. We're going to be in Las Vegas this year. Um, uh, Except we're not doing Barcelona this year. In fact, we're going to be doing Explore on the road. So we're going to be doing shorter events for a lot of the broader geos. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But London, Paris, Frankfurt, Tokyo, Sydney, and Mumbai. I think that almost like we were Metallica or something traveling the world. We are that cool. I think it's safe to say we're that cool. So, but we're going to go over a little bit more on that later. I don't want to cut into any more of your time because I know you guys have way cooler stuff than me to talk about. What's going on? Shobit, how are you?
Doing great, Anders. Wonderful day here in Austin.
Outstanding.
All right, let's get started. Quick introduction to myself and Justin. I'm Shobit Bhutani. I work as the Principal Product Marketing Manager here at Broadcom for Private AI, responsible for all the marketing launches and the messaging and positioning for AI. Justin?
Hi, everybody. I'm a product marketing engineer at Broadcom, working alongside Shobit on the Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA.
Wonderful. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So, what Justin and I are going to cover today is the importance of AI and Gen AI, the challenges of Gen AI, solution use cases, and what's the capabilities of the platform we have at Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA. And finally, we'll share some resources. So, with that, let's go ahead and move on. So, we made this presentation a couple of times, but it's always an interesting point that I hear from customers, right? Is you know why is Broadcom or VMware or Broadcom now investing in AI? IT applications have gone through revolutionary innovations over the last 20, 30 years or so, from PC, web, mobile, and now finally to AI. Each of these waves have created great innovations, and we're now at the next wave of this innovation led by AI. Broadcom expects AI to be part of all applications within the next 3 to 5 year time frame or so. In fact, one of the metrics I saw recently from Gartner, which said 15% of applications today have Gen AI and AI. By 2028, there's going to be 95% of applications are going to have embedded AI. Just like if you go back to like the Kubernetes world, like last 10 years back, right? It was like the new buzzword. Everybody wanted to be talking about Kubernetes. And guess what? Now it's an expectation. If you have an infrastructure platform or any capability, Kubernetes embedding is absolutely necessary part of that. So it's really by in the next, I would say now, not even 5 years at this point, 3 years or so, if you don't have AI embedded into a vast majority of your data center, you're going to have issues from a competitive standpoint. So that's one very important point to kind of know. And this is really why Broadcom's putting in so much time and effort into talking about AI and getting AI for all our customers across the board. The one question that we get, right, has is AI brand new? Answer is absolutely not. On the left-hand side of the screen is what we call specialized AI models or predictive AI. Predictive AI focuses on very, very specialized AI models, purpose-built, so to speak, focusing on certain narrow focuses versus being very generic. For example, I'm sure everybody here or most people here have watched Netflix movies, have purchased some stuff from Amazon, things like that, and have gone through taken some loans in their lives, right, for houses, cars, whatever. If you have done any of those activities, guess what? You already have been using AI. If you've gone to Facebook, if you've used social media, all of those places, AI is already very thoroughly embedded inside. So guess what? AI is already around you all over the place. Now, what's brand new is generative AI. Generative AI is basically the ability to generate text or images or sound, right, through giving large language model prompts, right? So that's generation of those text, video, images, etc. is really what generative AI is all about. Generative AI is the one that's causing so much excitement across the board, right? With ChatGPT obviously leading that charge, so to speak, who pretty much brought the generative AI revolution, so to speak, across all enterprises. We hear massive amounts of interest in generative AI across all departments in in the enterprises. We hear there's a lot of excitement around this from marketing, supply chain. Basically, every department in an AI is trying to embed generative AI into their applications, right? And that, led by chatbots and chat gpt and at this point Anthropic and so many other large language models, that's really what's leading all the buzz and the excitement around generative AI. Here's some metrics, right? I'm a marketer, so showing you trillion-dollar numbers is part of my job. 4.4 trillion dollars is the expectation that McKinsey has done a study on this, right? 4.4 trillion dollars is the economic potential expected out of just generative AI by 2028. And if I'm putting, if I'm a betting man, I'll say this is going to be probably even bigger than that, right? Probably higher than that. It is one of the biggest and most revolutionary trends that's going to happen in the next, couple of years or so, maybe 5 years at the very maximum. So Gen AI is going to be massive. On the right hand side is a new metric that just came out from Gartner, which actually I talked about it a little bit, right? It's 95% of applications by 2028 are going to have Gen AI embedded inside their daily operations. Huge, right? So think about if you're if you're in a data center with applications, if you're doing web services, you're doing whatever you're doing, if you're a marketer, there's a 95% chance, or 95% of the enterprises are going to have generative AI embedded into their daily functions. And that goes across the board. If you're an IT professional, cybersecurity professional, generative AI is going to be embedded into your applications across the board. Now, what happens if people don't go on this journey? Competitive risk, massive competitive risk. If you're not moving on the generative AI path as soon as possible, your competitors are. So right, so there's a high chance you may get left behind. So we suggest that you open up conversations with us. Right, we'll help you with this journey. Now, there's a whole bunch of excitement around this, right? However, whenever we talk to enterprises, right, and we've been in this journey with AI almost 5 years at this point. Privacy is the biggest concern across all enterprises, right? And what is the privacy risk? The privacy risk here is intellectual property, right? Um, customers want, first of all, not to lose their IP. If you go in and put in information in an open model, right, today, right, let's say, for example, there's a software query you do in an open model, not protected, not private, that data is going to get absorbed from a training perspective and then may get reused and prop up in other places where you don't want it to show up, right? So that's privacy is the number one concern with generative AI. So that IP risk is there. You put in your enterprise IP data, you put in your customers' data, or the wrong person in the enterprise may end up getting access to information that they should not. Like, for example, should a supply chain employee know the future sales projections or the revenue projections for the coming next quarter or the current sales? Absolutely not. That's not none of their business, right? They just need to work through their supply chain function. A finance professional, for example, absolutely does. That's daily part of their job. An accounting person absolutely does, so they can keep the books absolutely spot on. So those kind of access issues, the data issues, the IP issues, that's really what the big risk here is. If you don't have a private model and you're trying to use public models, unless you have enterprise license agreements with some of these folks, then at that point there is some privacy built in. So that's a big risk that customers tell us about, is privacy. What are some of the other risks the customers tell us about? Choice. This space is fast moving. In different applications today, customers want the ability to choose large language models that best fits their AI journey and organizational needs. So access to a broad ecosystem and variety of choices is mission critical. Cost. This space is fast moving. At this point, there is new components, software components, new vendors, new applications that come out on a daily basis, new large language models that come out on a daily basis. So keeping up a cost-effective operation is a big challenge. Customers want the ability to be able to keep costs under control. Surprise. So that's the other things that customers tell us about all the time. Performance. From a performance standpoint, LLMs require large and infrastructural resources. When you're doing fine tuning, customizing, deploying, querying, things like that, scaling up can be challenging without access to the right infrastructure. Finally, compliance, right? When we talk to some of our government customers, the three-letter agency customers, when we talk to folks in EMEA and some of the other regions, compliance turns out as a big concern all the time, right? So Gen AI, like we were talking earlier, right? Gives the way Gen AI works best is you take an open model, you take that model, bring it down to your data center, you merge it with all your information, right? So now you have a smart model which has your information. However, as you can imagine, that becomes potentially a dangerous model as well, for the simple reason that you may run into a challenge of access and privacy and all those things. However, if one place has a lot of information embedded, what may happen is compliance becomes a big issue, right? Particularly for some of our foreign customers, across other regions, etc. So from that standpoint, compliance is a big concern. Here's a quick data point that we shared. This is an IDC survey. The links, etc., are at the bottom. As soon as this material gets shared, you'll have access to it. IDC did a survey across 400 large enterprises across the globe with their deployments and development and deployment. The results were very interesting. The top two factors they're all concerned about are privacy, security, and control of their data and environment. This is, if you look at these top places, right? These are their top concerns, right? Proprietary sensitive compliant data leakage, etc. Across both model development and deployment. This is really the top concerns that customers have. And this is why Broadcom and NVIDIA have partnered together to produce this platform called VMware Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA. As the name suggests, our number one promise that we're delivering with this platform is privacy. It is an on-premises only solution. You have full access and full control to your information, your intellectual property, as well as your data, and all of that stuff remains on premises. The way this platform is structured, let's start from the bottom up, right? It's supported by all the major OEMs, right? Dell, HP, Lenovo, Supermicro, Hitachi, and then Fujitsu, which is FCS Technologies. It's built on top of VMware Cloud Foundation. VMware Cloud Foundation provides that infrastructural layer where your AI workloads, your non-AI workloads, everything can be put together on one one platform. The next layer is what we call the Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA or Advanced Service. This gives you special capabilities to get your platform now AI ready, right? And so those are those capabilities, and we'll go through these capabilities shortly. And then finally, NVIDIA Enterprise on the top gives the ability to generate, basically take the Gen AI models that we show on the top, right? Foundation models, optimized models, etc., and now start doing fine tuning, customizing things like that, etc. So you take, like I was explaining just a minute back, you take an open model, right, or a proprietary model, whatever NVIDIA Enterprise supports, right, which is basically through companies like Hugging Face, etc., literally in the thousands, right, of open models. If you want to choose an open model, or if you want NVIDIA specific models, you take those, you basically train that data with your own customized and with your own information from your enterprise, and now you have this powerful model which knows you and your information. We protect this with tons of capabilities that VCF as well as the Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA service have, and now you have this private model which knows all your information. You can extract really powerful information out of it. Why are customers choosing this, right? The customers are choosing this for several reasons. First of all, the speed and the agility. You have one platform on which you can share, you can spin up all your workloads, and you get massive scale and quick ability to go launch AI workloads. AI is just another workload for VCF. VCF, as you remember, is the infrastructure layer. And AI is just another workload. VCF is fully set up for AI workloads, container workloads, non-AI workloads, all kinds of workloads easily. Resource sharing is a big part of what we do. In partnership with NVIDIA, we've given you the ability to virtualize and share GPUs. The vGPU construct is the way we enable that. Lower TCO, the ability to do something called Dynamic Resource Scheduler or DRS. That gives you the ability to quickly move workloads here or there, as well as put the workloads contiguous to each other, and that gives massive ability to lower the TCO. In fact, I'll share numbers here shortly on that, how we compare against public clouds as well as Red Hat from a containerized standpoint. Centralized ops, like I was saying, you have one management layer for your AI workloads, non-AI workloads, containers, etc. And this is why customers love what we have to offer for this platform. And we're getting massive wins. In fact, last quarter's quarterly results, Hawk had announced that we've already made 139 customers on this platform less than 5-6 months after the release of the platform. TCO, like I was just explaining, the fact that you have one unified structure for all of your workloads, you have very great utilization capabilities, the ability to virtualize GPUs, compute as well as networking, as well as GPUs, right? And then you have one unified operations so that you have dynamic workload placement, unified automation, one self-service portal where you manage all your workloads. Combined with all of this, is why we're so dramatically cheaper against public clouds, up to 90% cheaper than public clouds, and up to 29% versus bare metal. And here's all the information behind this. But the results, this is based on Broadcom's TCO calculator. The numbers are stark. As you see, 91% lower than AWS Bedrock, 80% lower than Azure, and against Red Hat OpenAI, where Red Hat OpenShift AI, we're almost 29% cheaper, and then Red Hat OpenShift AI on HPE, we're 31%. So that's why we're taking the more conservative number across the board. So the ability that you can scale effectively, you have management and operations, cost capacity, custom dashboards. When you combine all of this, this is why VCF is the right platform for AI workloads. Combined with the Private AI Advanced Service, you have the infrastructure layer, so you can really get great results. The key benefit of VCF, in a traditional environment, you need to do compute, networking, storage, security, package deployment, monitoring, things like that. You have to do everything piece by piece by piece. Anytime you do an update, guess what? You have to go back and make sure every component works together. On VCF, everything's integrated together. You go from start to finish really easily because it's one integrated platform. It's not piece parts built together. It's one integrated platform, and this is why VCF is a great platform for all your needs, including AI. NVIDIA Enterprise. NVIDIA Enterprise provides the ability to give you, a great runtime environment, so to speak, where you can easily build GenAI models. It gives you great enterprise-grade security. They do CV patching, security patching, things like that. Stuff like that is really, really hard. And what NVIDIA has is release cycles, 1 month, 3 months, 12 months, based on the complexity, as well as, massive releases, so to speak. So whenever you have any AI components, etc., that there's some issues, some vulnerabilities, etc., released, NVIDIA Enterprise, through their enterprise support, actually make sure that you get the support you need. And finally, it's set up for ideally to be able to run everywhere, including on premises. This is kind of our overall pitch, so to speak, why we believe this platform is the right platform for you for doing AI. You get privacy, security, and compliance of your AI models, which is obviously the number one reason why issue, and that's why what we're delivering with this platform. You're able to get simplified GenAI deployments through the Private AI Advanced service, like that Blue I was mentioning earlier, and we'll go through some of these capabilities, where you're able to easily get your environment AI ready, right? And it gives you best cost because we're doing all the grunt work for you already, so you can very easily spin up your GenAI or your AI models. Now, finally, performance, like I was mentioning, is key, right? And the fact that we give you this very fine-tuned, excellent platform, gets you best performance, regardless of whichever LLM you choose, right? So you choose the LLM. We're all about choice, right, for the customer, and we guarantee that the platform will work really, really well, regardless of what LLM you choose. One question we get asked is, there's a lot of investment happening here, which is the places where Broadcom feels there's maximum amount of benefit to invest. Doc search and summarization. Basically, if you've ever searched anything in ChatGPT, you know how powerful that can be. So inside an enterprise, in your private, your own private model, a lot of time employees have to spend a lot of time researching information, looking up stuff. If you have this model customized, it becomes really powerful for doing those document searches and summarization, etc., inside your enterprise. And those numbers that you see, these are Gartner provided and Gartner signed off numbers on the productivity improvements you can get from your GenAI use cases, if you implement this stuff. Content generation, right? Again, blogs, technical documents, which technical folks like, Justin and some of the architects have to spend a lot of time writing. If you provide all this information already into your tool, it can get to that endpoint a lot faster. Massive, up to 25% productivity improvements. Code gen, that gets a lot of interest these days. In fact, Satya Nadella, Microsoft CEO, a couple of weeks actually announced that 30% of code in Microsoft is already being written by GenAI models. So up to 15% improvement there as well. Contact centers. In contact centers, the technicians and the support folks have to spend a lot of time researching information again, and through basically chatbots, etc., that can be built on top of those GenAI models, they can get to answers a lot faster, resolve issues a lot faster, and this can lead to up to 35% productivity improvement. So contact centers has a massive potential as well. I would say out of these, CodeGen is probably the number one use case across the board, across all of these. These two are the ones that we get maximum interest these days. CodeGen is number 3. It was number 1 on the other screen. GPU as a service. It's basically the ability for a scalable on-demand GPU infrastructure for enterprise and all their business units, right? So you're able to spin up capabilities like Jupyter Notebooks, models as a service, allowing organizations to accelerate data science and GenAI workloads, and very easily give places for different business units to get on and do whatever they need to go do And so GPU as a service is a very, very interesting use case, and it's probably our number one use case that customers want to get on board. So if you have a desire to get on the AI journey, this is the place you start, right? It's very easy to set this up. If you approach Broadcom, we can get you on that journey really fast. Agentic AI, agents is expected to be in the billions in the next 10 years or so, AI agents. It is the one that generates a lot of interest these days, right? Whenever I talk to Gartner and some of the other market research agencies, and we have capabilities to get you AI agents built really, really fast, right? So it can help you with AI-driven insights for operations, predictive maintenance, automation, things like that, and resolutions to be done by the AI agents versus the admins or the data scientists having to do a whole bunch of manual work. Now let's talk about some of these capabilities, right? Privacy, security, and compliance. VCF has a whole bunch of inbuilt capabilities, and we'll talk through each one of these capabilities here shortly. Enterprise-grade security through NVIDIA Enterprise. I talked a little bit about it, right? The continuous monitoring, regular releasing of security patches for critical and common vulnerabilities. And then VCF enables a whole bunch of other capabilities like integrations built inside of VCF, identity manager, third-party identity providers, etc. This multi-layered approach to security is really what is bringing you all the goodness and the privacy that you're looking for. Now let's look into some of those key capabilities like I was just mentioning. The first one is called Model Store. So, very similar to the Kubernetes Wild West, so to speak, 10 years back, you could take, whichever applications, take containers off the internet, start deploying into your enterprise. So it was kind of like a Wild West, so to speak. AI is very similar to this right now. You can, or inside an enterprise, people can just go in, start taking some of these open models and start deploying them without proper control measures, right? This can be a major security risk to enterprises, as large language models with malware or viruses could be introduced into the environment without knowledge, right? Knowing or unknowingly. So with this introduction of model store capability, what we're giving is the admin or a team of people inside the enterprise is going to have the control to curate and provide secure LLMs with integrated access control, right? Basically RBAC, right? So this can ensure that the admin decides what LLMs can be released into the environment and giving you the ability to do governance and security for the environment and privacy of the enterprise data. So this is pretty important. Yeah, software and security. We talked a little bit about some of the NVIDIA capabilities. And so this is not a star diagram. I promise you what this is if you take something like a PyTorch, right? And if there's a vulnerability, there's literally hundreds of dependencies on just PyTorch. So if vulnerability gets detected, exposed, there's hundreds of applications that can be affected through this. This is really the massive issue these days with AI. And guess what? Through NVIDIA Enterprise, you get the ability that anytime you have these issues come up, very quickly NVIDIA works to really resolve those issues, and that comes through their NVIDIA, that comes through their enterprise support. Simplify GenAI deployments and optimize costs. So we spoke a little bit about the fact that GenAI is hard, right? It's a fast-moving space. And what we're doing through these capabilities is giving you the ability to really simplify, right? And make the deployments get a lot faster. Let's look at the first one, RAG, right? RAG workflows. RAG is very interested these days, or retrieval augmented generation. Retrieval augmented generation basically means when you take a model and new information comes out, you want to be able to get that new information very quickly embedded, one way or the other into that model. What we found is that may require a lot of time and effort. So what RAG does is you spin up a database outside of the model, and in that database, you embed newer information, and this information and that database is vector databases. So what you do is when a new query is put in, that new query basically first goes to the database, looks at the answer if it's available there. If it's not available there, then you go back to your domain, your private domain data, and that gives you the ability to get much more relevant answers. As you get newer and newer information, you basically keep populating back into the vector database, and that gives you the information to do RAG and much more contextual, better answers. So that's the vector database capability. What NVIDIA RAG is, NVIDIA RAG basically is that software capability that NVIDIA Enterprise provides you to be able to leverage, RAG-based chatbots and RAG-based models. Deep learning VM templates. So, there's a lot of time involved, right, for spinning up GenAI models and then building chatbots and things like that. And you have to build VMs, right, which are repeatable, right, that as you go move faster, as you go, you can actually deploy this stuff a lot faster. So if you don't have these VM templates built out, right, then you have to keep doing that manual work across the board. And we give you the ability to basically pull down and very easily spin up VMs. And that's what this deep learning VM template capability provides. Guided deployment, catalog setup wizard. Spinning up, doing some of this infrastructure work initially can be a little bit hard. And the guided deployment basically gets you the ability to move through that initial setup of the infrastructure a lot faster with just providing some basic pieces of information that for configuration, but the entire process becomes extremely streamlined. Catalog setup wizard, there's a whole bunch of capabilities. The infra admins have to do a lot of work to provide catalog items that the data scientists need, and that is a lot of manual work. So what we've done through the catalog setup wizard capability is that intricate GenAI catalog items, which have NGC catalog thing. Building an NGC is NVIDIA's GPU cloud, which basically has a whole bunch of software libraries and containers. So what you do is through this catalog setup wizard, you're able to very quickly pull up those software libraries, those containers from NGC catalog, as well as from your own on-premises, and you spin up these ready-to-go catalog items. So when the data scientist wants to deploy anything, instead of going back to the admin and asking for a whole bunch of custom work, these objects are already available in a nice little catalog. The data scientist pulls those and now starts deploying. So the whole idea, if you look at this entire thing, right, doing all of these items by yourself can be really, really hard. But what we're doing is we're giving you these templates and catalog setup items and the software already inbuilt, so you can get through a whole bunch of this stuff a lot faster. This is going to take a second. The next slide takes a little while. Sorry, a lot of images on here. But really, NVIDIA NIM is one of the most exciting capability that NVIDIA just started. Just like what we've done, with templates, things like that. NVIDIA basically what they've done is they've taken generative AI models and embedded other software libraries, things like that. So now these are available for quick pull down into the data centers and deployments, right? And this is what they call NVIDIA NIM or inference microservices, right? So basically you pull down these prepackaged containers, which have a generative AI model already at the center of it and some software capabilities, and now you're able to easily spin up GenAI models really quickly. Guided deployment, like I was saying, it's really an effortless deployment methodology, for spinning up that workload domain, which is the key part of starting VMware Cloud Foundation, and a lot of software, infrastructure capabilities. This guided deployment gives you the ability to do all of that stuff really, really fast. Vector databases for RAG workflows. I think I already talked about that, so I'm going to skip this slide. Deep learning VM templates. I was just explaining these are VM templates which are pre-configured with hardware, software capabilities, and other integrations, etc. So when you want to go from one VM to the next VM to the next VM, it's not a whole bunch of work. You just have these web templates already available to you. Talked a little about catalog setup wizard. So for those day zero design of those complex objects, it becomes really easy. You have this catalog available, and there should be a slide here in a second. There you go. So you have these catalog items. This one only shows one, but really what you have is this AI workstation available. So when the data scientist wants to now deploy Jupyter's notebook or an AI workstation, this catalog is already available to them. They're able to pull it down, and very quickly spin up and start going straight to data science work versus trying to do infrastructure work. This is a pretty cool capability as well. So there's a whole bunch of Power CLI scripts that we launched. It's 4 of them, right, which we've launched last year to enhance the deployment efficiency and minimize the manual effort required for administrators. These scripts serve as the valuable tools for automating the deployment infrastructure prerequisites. These scripts have been introduced open source, right? So they are available to you right now. You can just go to GitHub page and get them. And it takes out significant amount of work required for the infrastructure deployment time. So with that, I'm going to pass this off to my friend Justin, who will take you through the last portion and last set of capabilities, as well as through a wonderful demo. Justin, you're muted.
Unmuting there.
There
Hopefully
you
you can
go.
hear me now. Sorry
Yes,
about
we
that.
can.
Okay. Thanks very much, Shobit. Very, very good discussion of this interesting subject. So I'll take you down a little bit into the technology now for a few minutes and explore at the end a demo of that very thing that Shobit's been talking about, an AI workstation or deep learning VM. We'll see that being configured and how easy it is to do that. In the end, we want to get efficiency out of this system. We want to make sure that we're using those GPUs to the best of their ability. We're possibly sharing them among 2 virtual machines or dedicating one of them to one use. But how do we know what's going on? It's important for us to have very fine monitoring tools to be able to see what the GPUs are doing. And that's a big part of the Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA that I'll show you in a few seconds. NVIDIA does a lot of work to elevate the performance in that technology called NIM, Inference Microservice, that Shobit so well described. The NIM is clever enough to say, okay, you're interested in Llama 4, 7 billion model or 70 billion model. The best GPU to do that you have around is an H100, and the best configuration is to put it into floating point 8 or FP8. NIMs will configure all that to give you the best performance you can possibly get from your GPUs. We do a lot of work at the infrastructure layer also to equal, if not better, performance than bare metal. And if you look at some of our reports on performance, they'll show you that. We've submitted standard benchmarks to prove that. Above all, what we want you and your data science teams to have is a choice of LLMs in particular. If you want to get the NVIDIA optimized LLMs, you can do that. If you want to use Hugging Face LLMs, you can do that. And as Shobit described, there is model governance built into private AI, such that you'll bring the model down into a safe place, effectively an AI workstation or deep learning VM, and then you'll test it there. You'll validate that it's doing the right thing, doesn't hallucinate, is not biased, is not subject to CVEs. And that set of infrastructure that you need to do that is provided by VMware Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA. So I mentioned monitoring GPUs. This is one of the screens in VCF operations to show you exactly what's going on in your GPU-equipped clusters, as you see at the top right-hand side there. And we've looked at one particular host and spotted that its GPU memory usage is at 99.61%. It's basically full. So we might want to apply another GPU to this system to make sure that anybody coming in will be able to get hold of that. This is just one of a whole series of screens that are there inside VCF and inside the VCF operations tool to help you. Here's another very colorful screen. The blocks on here represent individual GPUs, and don't be fazed by the reds here. We've changed that to a more friendly color. Red on the screen means underutilized. It doesn't mean danger. So we changed that to light blue or gray to not get the operator upset about it. But each individual GPU in my cluster, and there's a large number of them here. Each of the clusters is the blocks in gray at the top there, and each host within those clusters that have GPUs is visible in one screen here. And I can drill into these and see the particular topology in the bottom pane there that a particular host has of GPUs, and see what is the problem GPU. Is this GPU overheating, for example? What is the relationship between the power consumed by these GPUs and their utilization? Are they underutilized, as shown in red here, such that I can fit more work onto these GPUs without getting into trouble? That sort of capacity planning you need powerful tools for when you have more than one or two GPUs and you're sharing them across multiple data science teams, which is very common. So the wide choice of LLMs point made initially there, you can get foundation models that have been validated by NVIDIA, or validated by Meta/Facebook, or validated by Mistral. You can get those models pre-trained such that you're not going to be doing very much training. You might be doing fine-tuning on them. You can get foundation models, therefore, from NVIDIA and others, from the NVIDIA GPU cloud, and that's where the NIM fetches the model from when it's setting that model up. You can get foundation models that have been fine-tuned by NVIDIA for particular performance situations. You can get open source or open weight models, models that are licensable to be used from the open source community. Meta started this off with the Llama 3, Llama 2 models that said, use these for your own business, bring them down, test them first, of course, and make sure they're safe, and then put them into production. And there are many other third parties like that. Mistral is one example that have models that are very good at mixture of experts or some such usage that your data scientist wants to use. There's a wide variety of these, and as Shobit rightly said, new models appear on a weekly, if not more frequently than that, in the public domain for people to choose from. And we want you to have a completely open choice as to which model is suitable for which purpose. And in a RAG design, there are at least two models. There might be four or more models interacting with each other, and we'll see that a little bit later. Now, Shobit stressed model governance, and this is model governance in action here. I've pulled the model from NVIDIA's GPU Cloud NGC or from Hugging Face. I do that using a CLI command. NGC CLI is one example of them. That's all being done in a deep learning VM, which is running in a demilitarized zone here, as you see in the namespace at the bottom. That's a safe place for me to do my testing, my hallucination testing, my bias testing, my CVE testing, my correctness testing. Is this model giving good answers to questions? The basic sanitary test that you would do on any model is done here. And when I'm satisfied that this model is a good one and usable in the enterprise, as Shobit pointed out, I'll push that model up into the Harbor repository, which is our model store. Later on, somebody who's going to fine-tune or add that model into a RAG design will pull that model down into some form of model runtime. That could be the NIM, the NVIDIA NIM, or it could be other runtimes like VLLM, for example, which is a very popular model runtime from UC Berkeley. They will then need to index their data. That's a tool that we'll be putting out there in the future. Indexing the data essentially means chomping the data up into pieces, converting it into numeric form, and storing it into a vector database for further queries. And these two together, the model runtime and the index data, will be used by something we will have in the future called Agent Builder, which consumes model endpoints, an embeddings model in the case of the data indexing, and a completions model in the case of model runtime, and puts these models together into what we call an agent, a decision maker as to how the flow of control should go through your application. That's done in a completely separate place. It might be done in a Kubernetes environment, for example, for scalability. That's the kind of full life cycle here of a model from first download to putting it into production. So in future releases, we'll add services into VMware Private AI Foundation that we call Private AI Services. And some of those are the data indexing and retrieval service in the middle there that I mentioned. Its job is essentially to load your private data into a secure vector database. And the AI agent, which is to build the primitive application based on that data. Meanwhile, we'll give you better visibility of virtual GPUs. These are portable, vMotionable GPUs that can be GPU-aware VMs that can be moved around in the data center to do bin packing, to do contiguous access. vGPU is a technology that NVIDIA developed with VMware to make it a more VMware-like environment, essentially, such that I can do for GPU-aware VMs what I've been doing with non-GPU-aware VMs for years and years. vMotion, DRS, virtual machine placement, that sort of thing. Now, visibility to vGPUs hasn't been very intuitive up to now, but here in this upcoming release, we'll be able to show you which vGPUs are occupied currently, which are consumed, which are remaining to be occupied, so you can do capacity planning, and what is the maximum number of instances of that virtual GPU profile. We've been in the past, as you've seen in operations, being able to show you the physical GPU consumption. Now we're showing you the virtual GPU consumption as well in this diagram here. This will appear in some of the standard interfaces in an upcoming release. As Shobit mentioned, there's a big theme of agents in the AI world, and we've created an agent builder such that you can create agents from the models and index data indicated in that diagram in an easy fashion. We want you to be able to create an agent, particularly for retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. And so we want to bring together a database to feed documents that have been previously loaded, to feed those documents to the model such that the model gives a better answer to a question. That's the idea of RAG, a vector database complementing the model to give it better accuracy. And here's an example of creation of that agent. This is a customer support data agent here. You can see the document list that it's referred to when it's giving answers. We can determine how it should be indexed to a very fine level. We can determine what embedding model is to be used on the right-hand side, what the chunk size is, which is paragraphs or sentences in the input documents. We can turn a whole bunch of knobs here on how this document would look once it's inside the vector database. And then we can create an application from this, a RAG application. So summarizing here, VMware Private AI Foundation is a joint Gen AI platform between Broadcom and NVIDIA. Its purpose is to help enterprises unlock Gen AI and unleash productivity. And enterprises can deploy AI workloads faster as a result of using this. We're very much focused on making RAG as a key application or key use case effective on private AI as an on-ramp application that many of our customers are using. And essentially, we're running inference workloads in the data center with the database providing the private data. And we want to give you choice, best cost, best performance, and compliance. Okay, so let me switch now into demo mode to show you quickly what an AI workstation or deep learning VM looks like. And to do that, I'll bring up my favorite demo here and put it into screenshot mode or full screen mode. And here we're going to make a request for an AI workstation. Under the covers, this is a deep learning VM. And when we request it, we'll give it a name and a description. And here we make a key decision, which is partly determined for us by the system admin. Here is the amount of GPU that's available to me. This is 2 full A100s available to me at 40 gigabyte each. I'm going to choose that. I'm going to adjust my disk size, type my password, and as Shobit mentioned, I could choose just to deploy PyTorch here. That would give me an AI workstation, a deep learning VM, which has PyTorch running in a Jupyter notebook with a GPU attached to it, in this case, 2 GPUs attached to it, out of the box. I would not have to do anything further. I'm going to go a little more sophisticated than that and choose a full RAG setup, a full vector database plus running model such that I'm ready to go with RAG right away once this is done. I'm going to supply my NVIDIA NGC key here. I got that as a result of my licensing and hit submit. And now automation, which is a core piece of VCF, VMware Cloud Foundation, takes over and does all the work for me. And what I get when I look inside the automation script here, I see various objects being created that are going to service my AI workstation for me. The end result is I have a link here in the application space, which I can click on. I will do in a few moments to get straight into my application. But first, let me show you, if you're a VMware person, exactly what this looks like. These are 3 hosts here, some of which have GPUs on them. And here's my deep learning VM deployed into a namespace. A namespace is a first-order citizen now in VMware. And this is my deep learning VM. It looks like any other VM as far as the operations person is concerned, except that it's got the 2 GPUs here on the right-hand side that we asked for when we configured this. And those are virtual GPUs, vGPUs, meaning this deep learning VM could potentially be moved live to another host if we wanted to. So let's look at that in more detail. Those are the 2 GPUs represented as PCIe devices here. Very, very common to add PCIe devices to a VM like this. And if we look inside our VM, we see a bunch of scripts have been executed to get the vGPU driver downloaded either from NVIDIA or from a local repository. In this case, I was connected to the cloud, so I was able to get this from NVIDIA. We'll set up the drivers for you appropriately for your host, and then we'll set up all of the application requirements for your model to run. In other words, you've chosen the model. That's done in the automation script. We'll set up the directory for that model, the mounting of that model into the NIM, such that it can be cached and used in an optimal way there. And finally, we do a Docker compose right at the bottom here that brings up 5 containers that you see here when I do Docker PS. The NIM is the 3rd one from the bottom, NeMo Inference Microservice. The retriever is a part of the RAG workflow that retrieves from a vector database. I'm running pgvector in the container here. I could be running it under control of Data Services Manager if I wanted to. And the top 2 containers are the application that we're going to see here in a second. If I exec into that NIM container, I can see that it's running the model Llama 2 7 billion, a small model there on the right-hand side with a number of GPUs associated with it. And I can see the details of the model itself, what parameters are used. All of this is changeable through the automation script if you wanted to do that. So now let's use the application that actually was built for us to exhibit RAG. And so here's a simple RAG application. We give it a question, what is Llama Index? And it says, I don't know the answer. I was not trained on Llama Index. When I was trained, Llama 2 7 billion was trained over a year ago. So what we're going to have to do is go into our vector database. Here we're adding a file of private data to our vector database and making the vector database aware of the subject that we're interested in. We go back to our conversation, switch on the knowledge base, that's the vector database, ask the question, and now we get a good answer. We get data that's been retrieved from the vector database, given to the model, and we have a satisfactory answer. So I'll stop here.
We've got a couple of questions in chat.
Okay, I'll just point you to some resources here while the questions are coming in. So maybe I'll leave that screen up and we'll move into questions.
So the first one is, how can I get this presentation of the recording? I think we do send both. Anders or Simon, can somebody confirm? Do we share the presentation?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, we'll share out not only where those are stashed, that's also the rest of our depository of previous sessions. So if anybody has missed our previous webinars, it's basically our whole library of content. So that will definitely go out to everybody.
Wonderful. Next one is, how is this licensed? Does every host in the cluster have to be licensed or only hosts with GPUs? You want to take this, Justin?
Yeah, so there is a VCF license that's required first. That's licensed for the cluster, for the workload domain in which you're placing your AI work. We ask you to purchase a second product from us, VMware Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA Advanced Service. Another product that sits on top of VCF, and there is a license for that, and that's licensed on a per core basis. And NVIDIA has a separate product that you saw mentioned in our suite, NVIDIA AI Enterprise. That is purchased from NVIDIA. That's a separate purchase. So there are 3 SKUs involved in this environment here. That's a rough introduction to the licensing. Any other questions? If not, I'll pass back to Anders and let you take over here, Anders, for the last section.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like we've pretty much got our QA tackled. Shobit, did you have anything else to share before we go off to more Explore content?
No, I think just one last thing I wanted to just mention. Those resource links that Justin mentioned, there's a link in there. They'll come to you for a way to contact our team. There's a very short contact form, 2-3 questions only. Fill in that. And if this conversation is interesting to you, get with our experts and we'll get you started on your AI journey.
Awesome. To that, let me go ahead and share this up again for anybody who might have missed it earlier. What are your next steps? Hey, find your local VMUG community. Lot of good resources, fantastic brain trust of information, and folks that are going through a lot of the same steps and processes that you are. Browse the Hands-On Labs catalog. I've been with the company for 14 years now, and I still am waiting for the new Hands-On Labs to come up because I just love taking them. It's a real good way to do hands-on with all of our virtualized offerings in a virtualized environment. Try it out for yourself. That's the best way to find out, and they're just plain fun. And as I mentioned earlier, attend Explore coming up in the end of August for Las Vegas, and then we'll be announcing the Explore on Tour fall dates coming up for all the geos, just in case anybody's out there. You can always follow along with VMware.com Explore. I know the content catalog for all of the breakout sessions is going to be available June 17th. So you'll be able to see what's available, and then you'll be able to start signing up for those sessions middle of July. But registration is open now, so don't wait to get your tickets. Get out there and get some of that early bird pricing for your passes. Then that's about it. Thank you all very much. You can see the webinar schedule and on-demand sessions are here, the brcm.tech/VCF-webinars. And that is, as I mentioned, that's our archive. That's where all of the recordings go. And the recording of this session will be up there shortly as well. And you can pass it on to anybody that may have missed today's session. So with that, thank you all very much. Look forward to seeing you on the next round. Thanks again to our presenters, guys. Always a good time to have you. You're always fantastic. Other than that, I think we're ready to roll. So thank you much, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you, Simon, Anders, Justin.
Thank you, folks.